what professionals need to know about AI. Okay, so on this podcast, we've talked primarily about two topics, one being AI and data science, the other one being Web3. And unless you've been living under a rock in the last year or so, AI now is the hottest buzzword in tech, right? So, what has really been different this time compared to other booms in this space, like the big data boom 10 years ago, is that now AI through large language models looks like it's penetrating pretty much every aspect of society, I'd say, and every aspect of business. And obviously, this got many people wondering, many people thinking as to what do I need to know about AI? How is it going to disrupt my job? How it's going to affect me? And I just wanted to share some thoughts about this, right? So these are some of the things that I'm also discussing in my workshop as well as my books. The first thing is that you need to know different things about AI depending on your goals as well as your profession, right? And as you know, in the Tesseract Academy, we have a very strong focus on CEOs and entrepreneurs, and I'd like to start with the CEOs. So, if you're a CEO, essentially what you should care about is the fact that AI, powered by large language models, what it mainly does is automate. No, I wouldn't say the large majority, but many tasks which are now done manually. Okay, the obvious ones, which everyone's been work using ChatGPT for this anyway. It's content creation. There are many startups in this area. But what we're also going to see is ChatGPT and LLMs, they're going to overtake the majority of text processing in whatever shape or form. And now they're trying to also use LLMs, and there's actually a module in ChatGPT that can do this to help with data analytics. And eventually, what this it does is AI and LLMs become some sort of interface, right? So it's a technology that can improve any kind of user experience simply because it becomes an interface for automation. Yeah, so you can instruct in natural language, and then you can have an AI do a task for you instead of a human. So this translates to essentially improved efficiency, right? And going back to what AI and data can do in general, it's either improved margins, improve efficiency, like that is, this is a defensive application, as we call it, of data and AI. Or on the other hand, an offensive one is increasing sales. So a recommender system would fall under that bucket. So the current form of AI is more of a defensive type of application, but I'd say it's defensive at a massive scale. Right? So many industries that know how to implement this, they might be able to just essentially remove whole departments and replace them with employees. And if anything, sorry, with AI. And if anything, it looks like some big tech, like Google, for example, I think is already doing this. They're replacing some of their employees with artificial intelligence. Now, what entrepreneurs need to know is that AI democratizes entrepreneurship. So it lowers the barriers to entry in some very interesting ways. And I think this is going to become apparent, more apparent in the next few years. One way through which this is going to happen is, first of all, large language models will make coding easier. Okay, so anyone will be able to create an MVP using natural language, which is very interesting and fascinating, actually. Secondly, I think that large language models will also automate a large part of marketing and things like that, which now is very labor intensive. And this is, again, something that is often underappreciated, how difficult it is to sell and to do marketing, especially when you're a small, like a sole entrepreneur or a small business. And LLMs will be able to automate a lot of that, which means that entrepreneurs will actually have more room to be creative, to come up with new ideas, and this is obviously a net positive for society as a whole. However, there's a caveat. You should be aware that if you're already working on an idea, maybe AI is going to disrupt this idea and maybe it will turn it obsolete. I think a very good example of this is content writers. This is an area that's a red ocean, and I think it's been very disruptive for our. This has been a very area that's been heavily disrupted by ChatGPT and LLMs. And the thing is, now there are so many startups out there working in this particular problem, which I wouldn't be too happy if I was in that area. That being said, there are certain niches, there are certain ways to make a dent. But again, it's something that you need to take into account. So if you're a senior professional, and I guess many of you listening to this episode are senior professionals, first of all, you have to understand whether your job is threatened. And if it's not threatened, how is it going to be affected? Because more likely than not, it is going to be affected in one way or another. So maybe your job is going to be superpowered or it's going to be destroyed. So for example, destroyed is this is what some of the writers in Hollywood are being afraid. They're being afraid of getting replaced by AI, and that's why they are they were on strike. At the same time, there are certain jobs which might become superpowered. So, for example, coders, I don't think they will be replaced, but they will become superpowered. So you will have a coder, a senior coder, who will be able to do the job of 5 or 6 or 7 juniors. And it's very important for you to understand how this is going to affect you, and not only learn the right skills, but also position your career in the right way. Obviously, in some cases it might be both, because going back to, let's say, data analytics, you might have some really senior people who are able to do a lot more through AI, but then again, the junior people, maybe they will be obsolete, which creates an interesting paradox. You're like, oh, how are the juniors going to become seniors, right? Or it could be the case that actually the curricula are going to change, so someone who's a junior tech professional, a coder or a data analytics professional, will be using ChatGPT, and they will be able to become more productive while at the same time learning about best practices. I mean, this is still debatable, right? Everything is so new that no one's really sure what's the best way to go about it. But obviously, this will have an effect on the salaries, on how you promote yourself, and what companies will be asking. And long story short, you can't just leave it to chance, right? You need to be proactive. You need to at least have a working theory around what's the future direction of your profession, and take appropriate measures, whether it's joining, for example, a program like Tesseract Academy's AI and Web3 Mastery program for senior professionals, or whether it's just learning more about this topic. So I'd say if there's like one major theme that stands out from all of that, is that in the last 10 years, there was this concept of being data aware. That is, understanding data, understanding how to work with data, and so on and so forth. However, there's now a new concept which I call being AI aware. So, which means that you need to be aware of not only the capabilities that AI brings to the table, but how it can affect your business, your job, your profession, all of that together. And being AI aware is going to be key in the environment that is now emerging. And obviously, the foundation of being AI aware is being data aware, right? So I think being data aware is going to be like, what knowing how to work with spreadsheets was 10 years ago. I remember like 15, 10 years ago, whatever, there were like certifications for things like Excel and Word, right? Now, no one cares about this because they're so ubiquitous. If you are a white collar professional, you do work with these types of things, right? So everyone needs to know about Excel and Word and all these kinds of tools. So the same thing is going to happen now with data and with AI, right? So you need to have some basic level of data and AI awareness if you want to stay competitive. And AI is here, and it's not going away anytime soon. So as you might be well aware, I'm the CEO of the Tesseract Academy, amongst other things, where we help senior professionals understand AI and data science and get that edge in the market. But we also help startups and businesses get started with AI. So if you have any questions around AI or data science, I'm more than happy to help you. Feel free to reach out to me. And also, please make sure to go to thedatascientist.com for more content on AI, Web3, and blockchain. Thank you, and hope to see you again soon.